Okay, let's get started with today's topic. Number 11. The unsinkable Violet. Imagine being so unlucky that you keep ending up on sinking ships, but also being so lucky that you survive every single time. That's the story of Violet Jessup, the woman who couldn't sink. In 1911, she's working on this massive ship called the Olympic when it crashes into a warship. The ship gets wrecked but doesn't sink. Violet survives. Then, in 1912, she's like, you know what would be fun? Working on the Titanic. We all know how that turned out. But Violet wasn't done with her sinking ship collection yet. In 1916, she's working as a nurse on the Britannic when it hits a German mine. The ship starts sinking, and Violet literally has to jump into the sea to avoid being chopped up by the propellers. She hits her head but survives again. 3 massive ship disasters. Same person. All survived. It's like death was trying to get her but kept failing miserably. The craziest part is she kept working on ships after all this. She must have loved her job. Some people won't even go back to a restaurant if they get their order wrong once. Before we jump ahead, take a second and click that subscribe button. Thank you. Number 10. The man who couldn't escape the Civil War. In 1861, the Civil War literally started in Wilmer McLean's front yard. Confederate generals took over his house as their headquarters during the First Battle of Bull Run. One day, a cannonball crashed through his kitchen while he was probably trying to make breakfast. So McLean was like, I'm out of here, and moved 120 miles away to get away from the fighting. 4 years later, guess where the Civil War decided to end? In McLean's new living room. Yeah, General Lee surrendered to General Grant right there in McLean's living room. And just to add insult to injury, after the surrender, Union soldiers started taking his furniture as souvenirs. Some paid him for it, but still. Imagine trying to eat dinner with no chairs because some soldier wanted a piece of history. Number 9. The divine wind that saved Japan. In the 1200s, the Mongol Empire ruled almost all of Asia, from China to Eastern Europe. Their leader was called Kublai Khan. He was running the whole empire from China. One day he thought, hey, let's add Japan to the empire. In 1274, he sends this massive fleet from Korea, 600 ships and 23,000 soldiers across the sea to invade Japan. The Japanese are fighting back hard on their beaches, but they're totally outnumbered. Then, out of nowhere, this massive typhoon shows up and wrecks Khan's entire fleet. But Khan's like, whatever, I'll try again with an even bigger army. 7 years later, he comes back with 4,400 ships and 140,000 troops, sailing from China and Korea. It's the biggest naval invasion force anyone had ever seen. The Japanese are holding on, fighting for weeks on their southern island. Then another typhoon shows up and destroys Khan's fleet again. These are 2 massive storms, hitting at the perfect moment, 7 years apart. The Japanese were like, even the weather gods hate Kublai Khan. So they called these storms kamikaze, meaning the divine wind. The Khan never tried to invade Japan again after that. Number 8. The presidential bad luck charm. Robert Lincoln was the son of President Abraham Lincoln. One day, he was at a train station in Jersey City, got pushed by a crowd, and fell right between the platform and a moving train. Just as things were looking bad, some guy grabs him by the collar and pulls him to safety. That guy was Edwin Booth, a famous actor at the time. A few months later, Edwin's brother, John Wilkes Booth, would assassinate Robert's father, President Lincoln. Edwin had no idea who he'd saved that day until much later. When he found out, it became his only source of comfort, especially after his brother became America's most notorious assassin. But Robert's connection to presidential tragedies didn't end there. In 1881, he's standing at a train station in Washington when President Garfield gets shot right in front of him. Then, 20 years later, in 1901, he shows up at an event in Buffalo, and President McKinley gets assassinated there too. After that, Robert was done. He refused to attend any more presidential events. He basically said, I'm not taking any more chances. Number 7. The clone ship battle. Back in World War I, there were 2 passenger ships that got turned into warships. One was British, called HMS Carmania. The other was German, called SMS Cap Trafalgar. The Germans had this brilliant idea to disguise their ship to look exactly like the British HMS Carmania. They painted it the same colors and added some fake parts. On September 14th, 1914, These two ships ran into each other off the coast of Brazil. So you've got the real HMS Carmania, face to face with a ship pretending to be HMS Carmania. The British captain spots this other ship that looks exactly like his own, and thinks, something's not right here. What follows is a brutal 2-hour battle. Both ships were originally built for rich people to sip champagne on, not for war. So, they weren't exactly battleships. The British ship got hit hard, catching fire in several places, but in the end, the real Carmania won. The German ship eventually sank to the bottom of the ocean. The crew got rescued by a nearby German supply ship. The Germans never tried disguising their ships as British ones after that. Can't really blame them. Number 6. The Lucky Hugh Williams. This story starts off the coast of Wales on December 5th, 1664. A ship gets caught in a storm and sinks. There are 81 people on board. Only one survives. His name is Hugh Williams. Then, on December 5th, 1785, another ship sinks in the same area. There are 54 people on board. Again, only one survivor. A different man, but his name is also Hugh Williams. Finally, on August 5th, 1820, in the same place, a small boat with 25 people flips over. The one who survives is named Hugh Williams. Now, these weren't the same person. Just 3 different men who happen to share the same name and survive a shipwreck in the same place. So, if you're ever on a boat in Wales, maybe bring along someone named Hugh Williams, just to be safe. Number 5. Edgar Allan Poe predicts a murder. In 1838, Edgar Allan Poe wrote a story about a shipwreck where sailors eat a guy named Richard Parker to survive. Pretty dark stuff. But in 1884, 46 years after Poe's story, a real ship called the Mignonette sank. The survivors were stranded in a lifeboat, and to survive, they killed and ate one of their crew members. And this guy's name was also Richard Parker. It gets even weirder. In both stories, Richard Parker was the youngest crew member. The real sailors who survived were put on trial when they got back. The judge didn't care that they were starving. He said being hungry isn't a good enough reason to kill someone. They got 6 months in prison, which considering they ate someone seems pretty light. Number 4. The book that predicted the Titanic 14 years before the Titanic sank. This guy, Morgan Robertson, wrote a book about a massive ship called the Titan. And this is where it gets really weird. His fictional ship hits an iceberg in the North Atlantic and sinks, just like the Titanic did. The Titan in his book was almost the exact same size as the Titanic. His ship was 800 feet long. The Titanic was 882 feet. Both ships were called unsinkable. Both had way too few lifeboats. Both hit the iceberg at night in April while going too fast. And both disasters killed thousands of people. The guy basically wrote the Titanic story before it even happened. When people asked him if he was psychic, he was like, "Nah, I just know a lot about ships." Number 3. The Hoover Dam deaths. The year is 1922, and J.G. Tierney is surveying the site for what would become the Hoover Dam. He's probably thinking about the amazing structure that will stand there one day, but he never gets to see it. On December 20th, he falls to his death, becoming the first casualty of the Hoover Dam project. Now fast forward 13 years, the dam is almost complete. Over 100 workers have lost their lives building this monster. On December 20th, 1935, one final worker falls to his death. His name is Patrick Tierney. He was J.G. Tierney's son, father and son, both dying on the exact same date, 13 years apart. One marked the first death of the project. The other marked the last. Number 2. Mark Twain and Halley's Comet. Mark Twain wasn't just a great writer. He was also weirdly connected to a giant space rock. He was born in 1835, right when Halley's Comet was passing by Earth. This comet only shows up every 75 years, so it's kind of a big deal. In 1909, Twain looked at the calendar and did some math. He realized the comet was coming back the next year. So he makes this wild prediction. He says, "I came in with Halley's Comet, and I expect to go out with it." He even called himself and the comet two unaccountable freaks that had to leave together. He actually died on April 21st, 1910, just one day after the comet made its closest pass to Earth. Number 1. Anthony Hopkins and the Lost Book. In the 1,970 seconds, Anthony Hopkins got a role in this movie called The Girl from Petrovka. Like any good actor, he wanted to read the book first. He goes all over London looking for it, but can't find a copy anywhere. So he's at this train station, probably annoyed about wasting his day, and there, just sitting on a bench, is the exact book he's been searching for. Years later, he meets the author of the book, George Pfeiffer. They're chatting, and Pfeiffer mentions he lost his own copy of the book in London. Hopkins goes, "Hang on a minute," and brings out the book he found. Pfeiffer opens it up, and his jaw drops. It's his actual copy, with all his notes in the margins. Out of all the books in London, Hopkins randomly found the author's personal copy. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see next videos.